morning, Holy Cross. This is David Murrell, and welcome to the Morning Mingle. This is where we just try to start our day on a positive note and keep ourselves encouraged. Now, today's broadcast is going to be one as we approach July 4th, because July 4th is going to be on a weekend where we're not doing the broadcast. And so I thought I would do a broadcast where we would consider the ideas, independence and liberty, and those things that we normally reflect on and even celebrate on July 4th. But before that, as I was thinking about today's broadcast, I was reminded of a story. The other day, my son had put his boots on, and I had made the comment. I said, "David, you have your boots on the wrong foot." And he says, "I didn't know I had a wrong foot." Anyway, just a little bit of a silly joke to start our day. So today, a few things, obviously, in terms of July 4th, here's a few things that have occurred that are important to remember that occurred on July 4th. So today in 1776, according to popular legend, the Liberty Bell rings for the Second Continental Congress. Also, the reason we celebrate July 4th, today in 1776, the U.S. Congress proclaims the Declaration of Independence and independence from Britain. In 1884, the Statue of Liberty was presented to the U.S. in Paris. On a maybe a little less patriotic note, but I think something that we're familiar with, in 1939 is the first Major League ball player to have his number retired, number 4. This is Lou Gehrig, and he did this on Appreciation Day at Yankee Stadium and makes his iconic Luckiest Man speech. Also, today in 1872, Calvin Coolidge, the 30th U.S. president, was born. And again, on a little less patriotic note, in 1927, American playwright Neil Simon was born. And I share that because I was in theater in high school, and I believe I was in a Neil Simon play. So anyway, let me, in terms of America and the things that we're celebrating, I found this story interesting. It has to do with someone who I think would be considered an American hero. So let me share this from what I call the world of good news. With an absolute hunger for adventure, the first American woman to walk in outer space becomes the first woman to set her eyes upon the deepest known point on the ocean floor. In doing so, she also becomes the first human ever to do both. From the International Space Station, 254 miles above the surface of the Earth, to the Challenger Deep, about 7 miles below, one could say that her life, Dr. Kathy Sullivan, has had high points and low points. I mean, literally, from outer space, walking in space, to the deepest floor of the ocean. In 1978, Dr. Sullivan joined NASA as a part of the first group of U.S. astronauts that included women. On October 11, 1984, a veteran of 3 space shuttle flights, she became the first American woman to walk in space. The astronaut has always been fascinated by oceanography. Now, just as she reached for the stars at age 33, she completed 11,000 meters deep dive to the Mariana Trench deepest point at the age of 68. With her colleague oceanographer Victor Vescovo, she spent about an hour and a half at the lowest point in the ocean, called the Challenger Deep. On Sunday, June 7th, they took photographs from the security of their special submersible limiting factor, marveling at the other world below. Only mere weeks after the first privately built and funded rocket, the SpaceX Dragon, took astronauts to the International Space Station, the limiting factor, basically her submarine, from Triton submersibles, became the first privately funded submersible to repeatedly visit the Challenger Deep. So we have a privately funded spacecraft, essentially, and a privately funded submarine now making contact with each other as she's on the ocean floor. After the 4-hour ascent back to the surface, they docked with the mothership the DSSV pressure drop, where in another world first, a call between the International Space Station and the pressure drop was arranged so that Sullivan could speak with her astronaut colleagues. As a hybrid oceanographer and astronaut, this was an extraordinary day, a once-in-a-lifetime day, seeing the moonscape of the Challenger Deep and then comparing notes with my colleagues on the ISS about the remarkable reusable inner space and outer space, said Dr. Sullivan in a statement released by EYOS Expeditions, the organizers of the deep dive. EYOS Expeditions leader Rob McCollum said it was amazing to set up a conversation between two spacecraft, one operating on a platform for research in outer space and the other an exploration vehicle for inner space. It highlighted the vast span of human endeavor while at the same time linking us close together as fellow explorers. We made some more history today and then got to share the experience with kindred spirits in the ISS, said Victor Vescovo. It was a pleasure to have Kathy along both as oceanographer during the dive and as an astronaut to talk to the ISS. I just find that an interesting story. We have this individual, Kathy Sullivan, who's both been in outer space and now to the lowest place, in the ocean. And then not only that, they arranged this conversation between her and then those that are on the International Space Station. And so I just would, I think that you would share this sentiment. I would love to pick her mind about, what her unique perspective as an individual who's been to the highest of high and the lowest of lows. And there's probably some real perfect life metaphors and analogies we can learn from that. And so that conversation between astronaut and oceanographer must have been incredibly rich. Now again, and so, she's an amazing American hero for some of her expeditions. And so I thought I would also share, to go along with that idea of our Independence Day and celebrating our freedom. There's a few scriptures that came to mind that I thought I would share. 1 Peter 2:16 says this, "As servants of God, live as free people, yet do not use your freedom as a pretext for others, for evil." Let me read that again. 1 Peter 2:16, it says, "As servants of God, live as free people, yet do not use your freedom as a pretext for evil." It even goes on to say to serve others. And I think that's important as we have the incredible privilege to live in a free country, a free nation, that we've got to understand that we live as free people to serve others. 1 Timothy 2, I think is another good scripture to keep in mind on this approaching holiday, and it says then, "First of all then, I urge that supplications, prayers, intercessions, and thanksgiving be made for everyone, for kings and all who are in high positions, so that we may lead quiet and peaceable life in all godliness and dignity." Just reminding us to keep our leaders in prayer, those that serve in public office, and so we can lead quiet and dignified lives. As I close today's show, I'd like to share this prayer that's simply called Independence Day Prayer. So feel free to join with me or even just reflect on these words. And here's what it says. "Dear Father, there is no greater feeling of liberty than to experience freedom from sin and death that you provide for me through Jesus Christ. Today my heart and my soul are free to praise you. For this I am very thankful. On this Independence Day, I am reminded of all those who have sacrificed for my freedom, following the example of your Son, Jesus Christ. Let me not take my freedom, both physical and spiritual, for granted. May I always remember that a very high price was paid for my freedom. My freedom cost others their very lives. Lord, today bless those who have served and continue to give their lives for my freedom. With favor and bounty, meet their needs and watch over their families. Dear Father, I'm so thankful for this nation, for all the sacrifices others have made to build and defend this country. I am grateful. Thank you for the opportunities and freedoms we have in the United States of America. Help me to never take these blessings for granted. Hey, so I just want to, again, thank you for tuning in. As we approach our Independence Day, I hope you have an incredible Independence Day. For those that have served either in the military or served our country in some other fashion, I want to thank you. Thank you for your service. You will remain in my prayers. Thanks again for tuning in, and God bless.